It has been debunked many times, but William's supposed cheating scandal still makes the round whenever Meghan's fans run out of delusional options to defend her. Which makes one question all the more interesting. Who could benefit from this story in the first place? Welcome back, my body language buddies. My name is Jesus Enrique Rosas. I'm the body language guy, and it would be great if you join us by just liking this video, subscribing, and hitting that bell. Let's get down to it. It's much easier if we start by setting the record straight about what was the first confirmation that William was cheating on Catherine with their friend Rose Hambury. It was this tweet from British writer Giles Coren, where he was allegedly half drunk, and you know that you should never ever mix pubs and Twitter. Yes, it is an affair. I haven't read the piece, but I know about the affair. Everyone knows about the affair, darling. Well, since his job description is writer, and that punctuation is more random than Meghan's blinking, then we can safely assume that yes, he was sloshed. But don't take my forensic word for it. He actually said it for the Times. So can I please just say that while it was far from being the worst thing I have ever tweeted, I was joking. Yes, those all caps are his. I know nothing about the royal family. I had a boozy lunch talking to fellow hacks about the story, and then the car went online to blurt. Not only that, there's also some direct messages that imply in the same voice that it was a joke that got out of hand. But I made it very clear I was joking. How on earth would I know? But some American website took it at face value and it got enormous traction. Very weird. Well, not weird at all, because that's how human communication works, in many ways. And it's great that British historian Robert Lacey was not content with such admissions, and he really pushed to find the true origin of the rumors, and he found nothing. And it's important to note that Robert is, in general, critic of the royals, and he's not exactly William's biggest fan, so he had the right kind of fuel to find any possible proof, or source, or anything to confirm that this affair actually happened. Well, paraphrasing Robert Greene, enemies can turn out to be your best allies. It's interesting that there is always the mention of American newspapers, the ones that got this ball rolling, but not of British newspapers. And royal correspondent Richard Palmer had this interesting observation. Yep, in general, stories get reported if there is evidence to support them. If they don't get reported, that's usually because there is no evidence. Now, blind gossip and made-up stories happen all the time, but usually you need a special momentum to gain real traction and make headlines worldwide. And I think the first real notch was this Dan Wootton article from The Sun. Kate Middleton has fallout with glamorous best friend and tells Prince William to phase her out. Of course, there's absolutely no proof about these claims from Wootton, and it was Robert Lacey that also said that this was bollocks, because throughout all those years of alleged friendship fallout, Catherine and Rose had been working together as patrons of the same charity, the East Anglia Children's Hospice. Now, you might be asking, why William or Catherine remains silent about these allegations? Well, it's not uncommon for Kensington Palace to decline to make a statement about a matter such as this. In fact, the royal family hardly ever comments on rumors about their private lives, precisely because they're just that, rumors. In fact, if they do come out and either confirm or deny this speculation, that in itself would indicate that the coverage of this situation with Rose Hambury in particular had struck a nerve with the Cambridges. But William's lawyers did act upon this with a threat to sue media outlets over affair rumors. Still, the question remains. Stories like this arise all the time, but they don't become smear campaigns on their own. You need some kind of push on that, some kind of help. And of course, if someone is willing to push them, it's because someone wants to benefit from that. And let's be honest, the usual suspects will be the media themselves, who will always win by having more clicks, more visits, and more views to whatever content they push, no matter if it has been lousily verified. There's also the fact that William and Catherine are extremely public figures, and there is no question that they always look really happy, joyful, charismatic, and sharing great chemistry. It can generate not only envy and lots of it, but also the feeling that there must be something bad about them, that a couple cannot be that perfect, that a woman can't be that happy all the time. And on William's side, well, he's gonna be king one day, and we know that positions of such power are going to be scrutinized in every possible way, at every appearance, in every word he says. You'll even have crazy body language YouTubers looking at his jaw tension and other stuff. But speaking seriously, he must have a tremendous tension and pressure over his shoulders, especially because he looks like he really wants to uphold the royal family's reputation and bring it to new levels. And this is no easy task because, well, the Charles and Diana and Camilla story was scandalous enough, and that is something that you can't just walk off. When you're analyzing behavior and trying to pinpoint why certain patterns emerge, even in massive events like this, where a rumor gets to hit worldwide attention, you need to measure other variables, such as when did this story peak? And it caught my attention that in the past 4 years, you can spot a decline in the term Prince William cheating on Google Trends, which is an index of how much is a term searched on the internet, until it almost disappeared on March 2020. You might remember that around those same dates, Megxit was announced, so it's safe to say that people interested in the royal family were instead searching for Harry and Meghan's decision to leave royal duties. Now, if that was the case, then there's something that I don't understand on that curve. There is a huge peak on searches, very precisely around the same date that the Oprah interview aired. Does that make sense to you? First, Megxit almost deletes any interest of the public on William's supposed cheating, but then 1 year later it does exactly the opposite. You cannot have it both ways. If attention is a zero-sum game, it should work every time in the same way. And you'll agree with me that the Oprah interview was way more impactful than Megxit itself, and Google Trends also confirms that. When you compare both the Harkless events, you barely can see Megxit on the graph. So the Oprah interview that was way more explosive than Megxit did the exact opposite to people searching for William's supposed cheating. And just to refresh your memory, the most relevant mention of William on that interview is that he was trapped. Okay, you can expect renewed interest in this supposed scandal, but this kind of peak is extremely suspicious, and if the Harkles wanted to be seen on Oprah like victims, virtuous people, well, it certainly would have helped that. By contrast, William be seen as not as pure as he seems to be. Not to mention that the Harkles implied that the royal family are just plain R words. And there is another coincidence that still boggles my mind, and I just can't allow myself to not mention it here. In 2017, when Harry was dating Meghan but they were not engaged yet, he attended his first state banquet. What's relevant of this event is that he was paired with Rose Hambury for the royal procession into the ballroom at Buckingham Palace. You can imagine that this did not sit well with Nutmeg, especially when Hello Magazine published the line, "The pair chatted easily as they walked into the banquet together before taking their seats." Yeah, there must have been a lot of teeth grinding that night. Now, nobody can prevent Meghan's fans from constantly trying to push this narrative over and over again, even if it has been thoroughly disproven. But what we can learn from this is that even though this kind of smear seeds are planted all the time, they usually die quickly for lack of proof. So when one of those stories reach worldwide status, then you know that it got some help from somewhere. And what we believe to be coincidences can bring us closer to whoever is going to win the most by another person's reputation's downfall. We just need to keep our eyes open. If you want to refine your observation skills, all you have to do is download my 100 body language tips right in the description of this video. My name is Jesus Enrique Rosas, and it will always be a pleasure, my body language buddies. Much love and bliss.